Hey everybody, it's Gordy coming at you today. Wanted to talk to you about communications a little bit and why the Baofeng UV-5R is so popular in the preparedness community. I also want to talk to you about another option that's a much better quality product, but of course it does cost more, but it will do all of the same things that the UV-5R will. A couple of weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago, something like that, I was visiting with TJ Morris of Bear Independent. And if you're not familiar with Bear Independent on Patreon, you need to go look up Bear Independent on Patreon. It's $1 a month will get you access to a lot of good quality content over there. And he actually had me sitting in with him as he was making a video. We were talking about EMPs actually, and started talking about radios, the Baofeng radios, and how they would be affected by an EMP. Of course, that's all speculative because at least I'm unable to find any documented tests on radios similar to that on the internet or anything. So that's all speculative. But anyway, in one of the comments, J. Johns over there on Patreon, who subscribes to Bear Independent, suggested that I do a video on what all the capabilities of the Baofeng radios are. So that's what this is. We're going to talk about Baofeng radios. We're also going to talk about the Yaesu FT-65R, what its capabilities are, and going to show you a little bit on how to find out some information for your area. So let's get started. First off, we're going to talk about these two radios. This is an older Baofeng, actually I think it's pronounced Baofeng, UV-5R, and this is not the stock antenna that came on it. We'll get to that in a little bit. And we're also going to talk about this radio here, which is a Yaesu FT-65R. These two radios will do basically the exact same thing. This one cost about 30 bucks. This one cost about 130 bucks. This is a much better quality radio. The Yaesu is, and I'm going to put these down. The Yaesu FT-65R is actually, it meets military 810 standards. I think it's C, D, and E, which each one actually kind of, E is a little better than C, and C is a little better than, or, well, E, D, and C. It started out, a lot of the ham radios were rated at military standard 810C, or Charlie. And those have been revised over the years. I think they're up to G, revision G now. But anyway, it's standards on shock resistance. In other words, how far it can be dropped. Water resistance, how easily water can penetrate the piece of equipment. Vibration, just different things. So it meets certain military standards. They're older military standards, but it meets certain military standards for water resistance, dust resistance, and shock resistance. And I'll show you this. This is the Baofeng UV-5R. And if you can see, I'm going to try and show you, there's nothing, that's just a plastic button. So it's real easy for water to get in around these buttons. And the same way on the front. Now this set of buttons here, this button pad, is rubberized, so there's a very, very small amount of water resistance there. The Yaesu FT-65R, I'm going to try and show you. See, that button is completely rubber covered. So are these buttons. So is this button on the top. All of this radio is for the most part sealed. The only place that water can really get into this radio is through the microphone holes and through the speaker holes, and it has nylon screening in there to help keep the water out. Even where the antenna meets this radio, it's the outer part of the antenna is rubberized, and it kind of seals up to help keep water and dust out. And this radio Let me see if I can get this thing off of here and show you. And we'll show you what the inside of this looks like. Both of these radios, this is the Baofeng and this is the Yaesu. Both of these radios, I'm trying to prevent the glare. I apologize. It's wet and windy and cold outside, so I've set up a makeshift studio, if you will. I'm in the bunker. No. But both of these radios have aluminum frames inside. The Yaesu is noticeably heavier. Noticeably heavier. So there are a multitude of reasons that the Baofeng or the Yaesu costs less than the Baofeng. Trying to get this battery back on here. I'm gonna have to edit that out. There we go. The biggest reason this radio costs more is because it receives a lot better, it rejects a lot of extra noise, and the transmission quality is better. The tolerances are a lot tighter. I mean, if we were talking about a mil-spec rifle, such as an AR-15, when we talk about tolerances, we're talking about spaces between pieces of metal that come close together. In electronics, tolerances are mathematical distances, basically. This radio, if I take it and hold it next to the Wi-Fi router in my house and it's turned on, all I hear is because it's opening up the transmitter or the receiver on this radio, and I can't hear anything but the noise that's being made by that router. The Yaesu, yeah, not so much. I can stand next to my router and hold on a conversation with other radio operators in the area, no problem. So much better quality. Again, this one cost about 120, 130 bucks. This one cost about 30 bucks. So the old adage, you get what you pay for, definitely holds true for that. Now, both of these radios have accessories available for. A big one for me, and I think it is for Bear as well, is speaker mics. Now, this is a Yaesu speaker mic, and this is a Woshun. Basically, it's a Baofeng speaker mic. This speaker mic, I think, cost me 12 bucks, and it hooks up to the Baofeng radio. This speaker mic, I think I paid $35 for, but it's a Yaesu brand. Guess what? It's going to be better quality. They both weigh about the same, but it's just a piece of steel that's in there that gives it some weight. And I wanted to show you this. They are not compatible. You see, the plugs are very different. So that is a disadvantage to having a better quality radio. And Bear has even talked about his Kenwoods. Now the Kenwoods that he has actually will take the same speaker mic as the Baofeng radio. I don't know if he's aware of that or not. I didn't tell him that, but he could take his Kenwood speaker mic and use it on one of those Baofengs he's got, and vice versa. So, as long as we're talking about accessories, you can get extended battery packs for the Yaesu. I don't have one. This is an extended battery pack for the Baofeng, and I'll show you. You take the battery off and put this battery on. It snaps on. Makes the radio much larger, but it gives you a lot more talk time or receive time or whatever. You can also buy these that look exactly like this, except they come apart and they take AA batteries. Man, from a preparedness standpoint, being able to use AA batteries or AAA batteries with your communications equipment is a huge plus. Here's another plus. This little doodad right here, as you can see, that's an automotive cigarette lighter power cord. And this basically takes the place of the battery. So, and this little device, I think, cost me about 10 bucks or 12 bucks. Now, if my battery's completely dead, but I've got access to a 12-volt battery with a cigarette lighter adapter, or heck, even if I just run some wires of ground and a positive to it, 12 volts DC from a car battery, I can power this radio. They don't make these things for the Yaesu. At least I've not seen them. They might, but I haven't seen them. Another thing, I mean, the accessories for the Baofengs are inexpensive and they're cheap. Okay, this is a standard desktop charger that comes with a Baofeng radio, but this is a replacement power cord. Again, it's like 12 bucks or something. A replacement power cord for it that'll charge this thing off an automotive power supply. So the accessories for the Baofengs are really inexpensive. They're easy to get on Amazon, twowayradios.com. I mean, there's a bunch of websites out there. And I will put links to Amazon for both of these radios. Well, not this radio, but a newer revision of this radio, a better quality. But I'll put them in the links in the description. So if you wanted to go check them out, you can check them out. You know, buy one if you want. If you can do it, I recommend the Yaesu. It's a much better quality radio. So, and let me say this, most of the cheaper Baofengs, you can find Baofengs on Amazon and whatnot for around 25, 26 bucks. The one that I'm going to link actually has a better quality antenna. Most of them come with this little antenna here, which is basically nothing more than a resistor. It sucks, frankly. The one that I'm going to link to is going to come with this antenna. Let me get out of the way so you can see the difference there. And I'm trying to show you the end so you can see just how much, you know, this is still a crappy antenna, but it's a whole lot better than this crappy antenna. The antennas really don't get any crappier than that. And that's what's going to come on your $26 Baofeng. The $30 one that I'll put a link to will come with this antenna. And you can buy better quality antennas. Now this one here is a Chinese made antenna, but it's a much better antenna than that one. And you're thinking, but it's not as thick. No, it doesn't have to be as thick. The point is it's tuned specifically for ham radio frequencies. And I'll get into frequencies here in just a minute. This antenna will allow you to transmit from 136 megahertz to 174 megahertz in the VHF band and about 400 to 480 in the UHF band. This antenna, which costs quite a bit more, these antennas are like $6 if you buy them by themselves. This one's like 15 bucks. This one is only like 144 to 148 megahertz in the VHF band, and 440 to 446 or something like that in the UHF band. And this one does not have anything inside it because it was a cheapo on Amazon. But I think you can see this one. Let me see if I can get this up here where you can see inside there. You see that writing hopefully inside there that shows the frequencies on there. Okay. So this antenna is a much wider band antenna, and if you're going to use this radio for receiving or potentially transmitting in an emergency outside ham radio frequencies, this would be a better antenna for you than this, because if you transmit outside of this antenna's specified limits, you can cause damage to the radio, because basically a quick little radio lesson, how they work. The radio transmits RF energy, and if the antenna is tuned to the same frequency, that energy is emitted off the antenna. If the antenna is not tuned to that frequency, then most of or part of that energy is emitted. The rest of the energy that's not emitted, because it doesn't match, gets reflected back down into the radio, and the radio will get hot and cause it to malfunction, to break. So antennas are a biggie. Make sure you get a better quality antenna. This one is my wife's radio, and I did swap it out with the better antenna. So I think that covers, programming cables. I wanted to cover programming cables. This is a programming cable for the Baofeng radios, and as you can see right there, I did buy the Baofeng Tech brand. This cable costs 20 bucks. Don't buy one of the $8 cables. They suck. You're going to hook it up to your laptop or your computer, and every time you hook it up, you're going to have to reinstall the drivers for it. Spend the 20 bucks and get a good quality cable that when you hook it up, it works every time. You don't have to worry about it. This one here is the Yaesu cable. It basically works the same way. It's a little USB plug, but it plugs into the speaker mic connection. This, I think I paid 30 or 35 bucks for on Amazon, but it sure makes programming the radios a whole lot easier than trying to do everything by hand. I mean, you can program these radios via the keypad, and this radio is a little bit easier to program using the keypad a little bit than the Baofeng. The Baofengs are really a pain in the butt to program using the keypad. So I think that one other thing I wanted to cover, this particular radio right here is an 8-watt version. It's basically the same thing as a UV-5R. This is a Baofeng F9 plus TP. The TP means tri-power. So this is an 8-watt radio. This radio does 1 watt and 4 watts. This radio does 1 watt, 4 watts, and 8 watts. And the Yaesu does a half a watt, 2 watts, 2.5 watts, something like that. We'll call it 2.5 watts. It does a half a watt, 2.5 watts, and 5 watts. And it does put out 5 watts. So there are other options for radios. There's one last thing as far as accessories. I almost missed this because it's so small. I want you guys to see this. This is an antenna connector, and that is basically the same type of connectors you see CBs use and whatnot. It's a very common connector in the ham radio community, also in commercial radio in a lot of instances. And the other side of it, actually, you can unplug this antenna right here, or unscrew, not unplug, but unscrew this antenna, and you can take this little adapter and screw that sucker right in place of that antenna, and then you can hook an external antenna up. So you could have a mag mount antenna on top of your car, and improving the antenna makes a huge, huge, huge difference on either one of these radios. Any of the handheld radios, being able to hook it up to an external antenna. And you can get little antennas that will roll up. They'll roll up into a little coil about this big that you can stick in a pocket in your backpack, your go bag, whatever. And if you have one of these adapters, then you can throw some 550 cord on the top of that antenna, you know, run it up 15, 20 feet up hanging off a tree limb, and make communications when normally you would not be able to with just the handheld antenna. So I did want to touch on that. So that covers some of the accessories, and hopefully everybody has a basic understanding. One other thing, I wanted to show you this, the UV-5 or the FT-65, the Yaesu radio. The antenna on this radio that comes with this radio actually has the frequencies. Let's see if it'll focus. See if it'll focus there where you can see that. But it actually has the frequencies where it shows that this antenna that comes with this radio will work from 136 to 174 megahertz on VHF and 400 to 480 on UHF. So if for some reason you needed to transmit in an emergency situation with this radio outside the amateur radio bands, you're not going to destroy the radio because the antenna that comes with it is already ready for that. So let's get into talking about the actual capabilities of either one of these radios. Hopefully everybody understands the differences and the similarities. Both of the radios will transmit, well, both the radios will receive from 136 to 174 megahertz on VHF and 400 to 480-ish. The Baofeng, some of them come a little bit wider than that, but 400 to 480 on UHF. Now, the Yaesu is locked down that way because it only transmits on the amateur bands. However, if you do a little Google searching on the internet, and I'll actually I'll throw up a little photo of a web page here and show you. This website is called simonthewizard.com, and you can look at the image and you'll see right up there at the top in the address bar where it is. but you could Google, and this is about halfway down on this page. It's the Yaesu FT-65R and E expanded transmit modification. And it tells you step by step how to turn this radio simply by punching in a code, a sequence of key sequences, how to get this radio to where it will transmit out of band. And when you do that, if you do that, then these two radios have exactly the same capabilities. In fact, this radio, and we'll talk about this a little bit, this radio, I don't know if you can see there, but it's set up where it's listening to MURS, and I actually have one of my local FM radio stations programmed in here so that when I go to FM mode, I can listen for news, weather alerts, and that kind of stuff. The Yaesu actually does the same thing. It's and you can see it's set up where it's listening to FRS frequency, but all I've got to do is hit a couple of buttons here, and same thing. So both of these radios have the capability of listening to local FM broadcast stations, which is a great thing, especially if you live in hurricane areas, tornado areas, earthquake areas, anything like that where there are common, up in the northeastern seaboard, the nor'easter storms where you've got snow and ice that comes in, overnight. For listening, monitoring your local radio stations so that you can get news and weather reports. That's an important thing in an emergency communication device. Now, both of these radios will cover a lot of different frequencies, as I talked about, 136 to 174. I'm not going to talk about the UHF band a whole lot, but I will say that the MURS frequencies are VHF frequencies, and the FRS, Family Radio Service, frequencies are UHF. And VHF usually will travel a much greater distance than UHF. So if you're talking about just, right close to the house, FRS frequencies are great. But if somebody's going to be, I don't know, a mile down the road monitoring a checkpoint to watch, traffic patterns or something like that, whatever. Maybe Bobby's, 3/4 of a mile out back of the back pasture sitting on his deer stand. MURS, the VHF frequencies, would be able to cover that distance a whole lot better than the FRS frequencies. And I will also put up right in here a graphic that will show you the Yaesu website and the FT-65R page, and in the Files tab on that page down at the bottom is the programming software. It's free. So you can get the programming software. All you got to do is buy the cable. The same thing with the UV-5R. And on the UV-5R, I'm going to put up a graphic for a website called MyClor. It's MIKLOR.com. And they have a whole plethora of Chinese radios that they give you information on. And you can click on the UV-5R or the F8HP. The HP is any of them that are 8 watts. And it gives you a lot of information and tells you it gives you a lot of tips and tricks on how to program the things and that kind of stuff. So hopefully that graphic will help you as well. Feel free to stop the video. I'll put links to all of these down in the description where you can just click on the link if you don't want to stop the video and write stuff down, where you can get access to all that stuff. The MyClor website has links to the Chirp software, which is what most people use to program the Baofeng radios, and it's free as well. They update it regularly also. So, let's see, I've covered the radios, their basic characteristics, accessories, availability, all that kind of good stuff. The cost, of course, there's a pretty good cost difference. So now let's talk about the capabilities of the radios. So this is where everybody really needs to pay attention. And I have several graphics that I'm going to use and I'm going to put up on the screen for you to see. I'm going to be referencing a website called radioreference.com. Radioreference.com, and this is what the home page looks like. And if you notice, if you take your mouse and hover or click on databases, then you can go to the frequency database. The frequency database is where you're going to find all the frequencies for your area. The next slide, it will come up and it will show you the U.S. home, and you can click on your state, and then from there you can click on whatever county you're in, and it will list the frequencies that are in your county. Now, if you'll notice on this graphic, it has nationwide frequencies highlighted. I did that on purpose to point that out. Be sure and go click on that tab as well, because some of the frequencies that I'm going to talk about will be found under that tab. And everybody has, different preferences to what you want to be able to listen to and potentially transmit in an emergency on during emergency situations. But I would highly encourage everybody to try and listen to gather as much information as you can. You've heard a lot of people talk about OODA loops. It's observe, orient, decide, and act. Well, in order to observe, let's just call this audible observation. You can hear things that are going on. So use this for intelligence gathering. Find out if there's, you can listen to your local fire department if they use FM radios, and find out if the street, the woods down the road are on fire and maybe it's coming towards your house. It might be something you would want to know about, I would hope. So anyway, let's go back to the Radio Reference website, and I'll show the United States map. And what I've done is I have some tribe members of mine that actually live in Murray County, Oklahoma. So if you click on Oklahoma, and the reason I do this is because if I go visit them, I want to be able to hear what's going on. So click on the state of Oklahoma, or click on your state, then click on your county, because it's going to bring up a state map, and then you click on your county. And if I click on Murray County, Oklahoma, then this is what you'll see. Now I have scrolled down a little bit so you can see the frequencies. But Murray County, Oklahoma, it shows you what the Murray County, the actual county government frequencies are, and it has sheriff dispatch and ambulance dispatch. I'm disappointed that it doesn't have fire dispatch, but if you put those two frequencies in your radio and mark them as sheriff or ambulance for Murray County, then when you're in that area, you could at least listen to that and find out what's going on. The next title down there is Skywarn. And for those of you that aren't familiar with ham radio and weather spotting, Skywarn is a program through the National Weather Service where they not only train amateur radio operators, but they also train public safety people. In fact, if you go back up to the Murray County database, that third one there says emergency management and storm spotters. So Oklahoma is very tornadic prone. So spotting tornadoes is a big thing in Oklahoma. So Skywarn is severe weather nets, and those are ham radio repeaters. None of these frequencies should you be transmitting on except for the ham radio frequencies, and then only if you're licensed. Don't go think that it's okay, and I'm not telling you that it's okay to go transmit on any of these frequencies. In fact, any of the public safety frequencies, if you transmit on those frequencies and interfere with them, they will hunt you down and they will put you in jail. Don't think they won't. The ham radio folks will hunt you down and they'll report you to the FCC, and then you'll end up getting fined. But the public safety, the police, the fire department, ambulance service, they will hunt you down and put you in jail. So there's the Murray County frequencies, there's the Skywarn, that's the ham radio weather spotting frequencies, and then Sulphur is actually one of the towns in that county. I think Sulphur's the county seat. Davis is another town that's in there, and you notice they've got police and fire dispatch for both of those. And then Dougherty is a smaller town that's in the county, and they only have fire dispatch because I think the sheriff's office is responsible for policing that township. So again, go to the Radio Reference website, go to the frequency database, And then let me look at my notes here and make sure I'm telling you right. Yeah, go to databases, then go to frequency database, then click on your state, then click on your county, and you'll find out what's available there. Now, you may find that some of them, it is digital stuff. As a matter of fact, let me put the Murray County thing back up, and I'm going to show you. Where it says mode over on the right-hand side, you notice that some of them are FMN, that's Foxtrot Mike November, and some of them are just FM, that's Foxtrot Mike. So FMN means narrow FM, and FM is standard or what's considered wide FM, just so you know that those are there. So anyway, that's enough about that. Let's talk about some of the other ones. I'm going to go ahead and pop up MURS, which is the multi-use radio service. And this has the frequencies for the MURS service. The MURS service is actually an unlicensed service. You do not have to have a license to use the MURS frequencies if it's on type accepted radios. Now, the two radios that we talked about earlier are not type accepted for MURS, so if you want to transmit on those frequencies with those radios, that's your responsibility. I'm not telling you that's okay. In fact, I'm telling you that is against the law. It's illegal. It's against the regulations. And if somebody finds out about it because you're interfering with somebody else, you could get in trouble for it. Now, I will say that I do have these frequencies programmed in my radios. But the MURS frequencies over on the right-hand side, you notice 3 of them are FM narrow and the other 2 are standard FM. The next slide is going to be the Family Radio Service, or FRS. These are the UHF frequencies. These are the radios that you can go to Walmart and buy in the sporting goods section as hunting radios or whatever. These are the frequencies. All of these frequencies are FM narrow. And this is an unlicensed service if it's on type accepted radios like the ones that you buy at Walmart. And if you're going to let your kids play around with the radios, I would encourage you to go get legal radios for when you go camping with your kids and that kind of stuff. Use these other radios for emergency situations. Or if you're going to use them for practice, be very careful with them. So the FRS frequencies are there. All of this is on radioreference.com. The next slide is going to be maritime frequencies. Now, these are the marine frequencies. So if you live on a river or near a river that has a lot of boat traffic, or if you live on or near a lake that has a lot of boat traffic, having some of the marine frequencies would be very important. And if you notice on the marine frequencies, all of these are listed as standard FM or FM wide. Pay particular close to Marine Channel 9 and Marine Channel 16. Marine Channel 9 is boat-to-boat calling, non-emergency stuff. So if I'm in a boat and I want to hail another boat out on the lake or whatever, that's the channel that I would use. And then Channel 16 is the calling or distress signal. So if there's a boat that's sinking, he's going to get on Channel 16, he's going to call Mayday or whatever. So anyway, there's a whole lot of frequencies there, but Channel 9 and Channel 16, I think, would be beneficial if you live near water with boat traffic. And the last slide that I'm going to put up is going to be the National Weather Service. The National Weather Service frequencies, which I have in both of my radios, are used for monitoring the National Weather Service because I do live in an area that is somewhat prone to tornadoes. So having access to be able to monitor the NOAA weather radio is a good thing. And you notice those are standard FM. Okay, so I'm going to look at the Murray County slide. I'm not going to pop it back up again, but I'm going to look at one of my handouts here just so that I can have a little reference. So in the county that you live in, you may notice that the mode may be P25, or it may be DMR, or it may be NXDN or something like that. Those are all digital modes, and you are not going to be able to monitor those digital modes with either one of these radios. These radios are FM only, so you won't be able to monitor the digital modes, and I'm not going to get into digital modes today. I may do a video sometime in the near future about DMR, which is digital mobile radio, which has taken a pretty good stronghold in the ham radio community, and some of the benefits for that. So hopefully you can take this information, you can go to radioreference.com, you can look up your area, you can find the frequencies that would be wise for you to monitor. If the blue helmets or the National Guard or somebody was coming down your street, wouldn't you like to know about it? So it would be nice to be able to monitor some of these frequencies, your local fire department, your sheriff's office, your local police department. Again, in the larger cities, most of them are digital. You can get a digital scanner, a decent quality digital scanner that will be able to monitor most everything out there. Is going to cost you $400 for the cheap ones. $400 for the cheap ones. You can get good ones for $700, $800. And I'm talking they're small little handheld jobs, but because they're licensed modes, the companies that build the scanners have to pay licensing fees in order to be able to decode those digital frequencies. So anyway, I think that covers everything. If you've got questions or comments, feel free to leave a comment down below. Again, I'm going to leave a bunch of links in the comments when I actually get ready to post this video. It's probably going to take me a day or two to get the video edited and links built and all that kind of good stuff so that I can get it posted on YouTube. And Jay Johns, I hope you watch this, and thanks for the suggestion for doing the video. Hopefully this information will help a lot of people. Again, I would encourage everybody. There are 3 levels of amateur radio license. There's a technician level, which is the entry level. There's a general level, which is a mid-level, and there's an extra, which is the highest level. I hold an extra license. I would encourage you to seriously consider going and getting the entry-level license, the technician license, and learning more about radio communications. Not to mention that using ham radio repeaters, instead of using one of these radios, like if I was to put this on a MURS frequency because my wife was out back picking blackberries and I wanted to be able to get a hold of her in case of an emergency because cell phone signal out here is kind of sketchy, then I could do that. And that's great for, out back, the outside the back pasture or whatever. But if she's in her car and she's in town, 6 miles away, that's not going to work. So using MURS and FRS is not going to cover you for any distance. But with a ham radio license, there are ham radio repeaters that blanket the United States. I mean, if you live in, the middle of a Kansas wheat field, you may or may not be able to hit a 2-meter ham radio repeater. More than likely, you will be able to. So I would encourage everybody to look at getting your technician ham radio license so that you can make much longer distance communications. I can easily, using either one of these radios and talk via a repeater, which is basically just another radio system that's set up real high somewhere. I can use a repeater and I can talk probably 60 miles in just about any direction from where I am using that repeater. Well, I guess I should say more like 60 miles in any direction from that repeater is actually a more accurate statement. So, it's cool to be able to talk that far. Plus, if you get licensed with ham radio, you'll actually hopefully get out there and practice a little bit, maybe get involved with the radio club. There are a lot of folks that will be more than happy to teach you. Everybody knows that everybody starts out not knowing anything. So get involved. Learn how to use some of your equipment. I think that pretty much covers everything. Get your ham radio license. Highly encouraged. If you can afford it and you really want to have good quality communications, I would highly recommend the Yaesu FT-65R. It's a good little radio. And that said, if all you can afford is a $25 Baofeng UV-5R, something's better than nothing. Now, everybody ought to have a good quality radio or two, and everybody ought to have 3, 4, 5, 6 of the cheap ones. And I'll say this, I like this radio, it's a much better radio. But when I was younger, I used to climb towers and do some antenna work on antennas for ham radio friends of mine. I would not carry a $150 or $200 radio up that tower. I would carry my cheapo $25 Baofeng, because if I dropped it off the tower and it shattered at the bottom, I lost 25 bucks. That sucks, but it's a whole lot better than losing 150. So keep that in mind. And if you can afford to put these back, put back a couple a year or whatever, so that you'll have extra radios for people that may end up showing up at your place if something crazy does happen and you end up having to host family members and stuff, so that you can all talk when you're busy doing the chores that need to be done. All right. I hope everybody found it helpful. Again, Jay Johns, thanks for the suggestion. And y'all have a great day. I'll catch you next time. Shalom, everybody.